So welcome to the Member Showcase. Today I am delighted to be joined by Olivia Hughes. Olivia is a DMI member, having completed her DMI Pro last year in 2020 and also having completed the DMI Expert in 2021. Olivia is the Director of Marketing for Dell Technologies, and it's an absolute pleasure to have you today, Olivia. How are you?
Great, thank you, Sean. Thanks for that lovely introduction. I'm great, and yourself?
Yeah, brilliant. Just to kick things off, I'd just like to learn a little bit about you, your career to date, and your background.
Yeah, sure, no worries. I'm the marketing director for the multi-billion-dollar OEM division within Dell Technologies for Europe, Middle East, and Africa. I lead a team of very talented marketers around EMEA who drive awareness and demand generations in the EMEA marketplace for Dell OEM solutions. And I've been in Dell, working in Dell for over 15 years now, and have had various local and global marketing roles in Dell. And prior to Dell, I worked in many different marketing roles in EMEA, in Asia, Australia, and the US. In industries such as technology, telecommunications, photography, property management, and recruitment, actually. And I also have experience on the marketing agency side. And from a personal perspective, I live in Dublin, Ireland, and I'm married to my Aussie husband, Simon, and we have 3 children, Ellen, Reen, and Alana, and also 2 cats and a dog.
That's excellent. That's a lot of experience and a lot of traveling around. The one thing I kind of was curious about, just with your type of your CV and the kind of breadth of experience you have, what kind of skills do you think digital marketers need to work effectively in a kind of changing digital landscape?
Well, I think we're all aware that it is absolutely imperative to keep up to speed all of the change, all the latest tools, technology, and trends in digital marketing, because it's so fast moving and changing all of the time. So you can't afford to get left behind. My advice is to keep reading, keep curious, and keep current. As a digital marketer, you need to understand the company's business priorities, the market landscape, and customer needs, and then allocate digital marketing resources accordingly. It's all about understanding the data, in my opinion. Digital marketers need to have a good classical marketing understanding and skills, combined with a data-driven mindset and an understanding of the different customer experiences, depending on where the customer is in the customer journey. A deep understanding of the different kinds of personalized messages and channels of communication is needed.
That's excellent. So just to kind of change gears a little bit, a lot of what you do, has something to do with events in some way. And given the kind of upheaval that we've all been subjected to in the last 18 months, I'd be curious to understand how you've been affected, or how you've even overcome losing events as a kind of core component of the kind of marketing funnel, if you like.
Mm-hmm. Well, I suppose what we've done is we've really focused on the customer and thought about how we talk to our customer in different ways, whether that is through virtual events of various sizes, through personalized emails, or indeed through digital and social media, for example. The key, I think, is to always put your customers and partners first and really listen to their needs and what they want. With the virtual events, I believe that it's really a good thing to do not to try to push too much content out through these virtual events. It should be more of an interactive, two-way conversation with your customers and partners. Make it a bit of fun, interactive, and of course, personalize the virtual event experience as much as you can. A practical that I've learned over the past year is to try to learn some best practices from other teams within your organization if you work for a large company, because we're all learning this new world together. Or indeed, you could reach out to your network to learn best practices from other people outside of your company and see what they're doing. For example, a lovely lady who's another EMEA marketing director just reached out to me on LinkedIn out of the blue to see if we could have an ongoing conversation to learn best practices from each other, which was great. She's absolutely lovely and really, really smart, and we really click. So this has been a great way for me to bring in best practices about virtual events and different marketing things from outside of my company. And the final tip I would say is it's always good to have mentors as well. I have great mentors both within the company and outside, and I've learned great tips around virtual events and various different marketing from these different mentors.
That's great that you're making it work for you in that way. And just regards remote working, I suppose, in a more general sense, it's actually not a novelty. For you've been leading a remote team for years now, given that there's the kind of physical distance between yourself and your many of your team. So we're curious if you have any tips around managing a team remotely.
Sure, yeah. I actually wrote a blog about this, which you're of course free to share if you like. It's about leading remote teams. A couple of years ago I wrote it, and to be honest, most of what I wrote is still very relevant today, except that of course we can't meet up at all in person at the moment, so we really need to think creatively about how we keep that team spirit and connectivity strong. So we, in my team, we start off the week with a team meeting on Zoom. It's very important to try to have the cameras on during this meeting, even though not everybody feels like it at times, including myself. But that, I believe, is important to keep connection strong between us. And then I make sure then to have one-to-one with each team member, either later in the week or bi-weekly with some people. I always try to start off these one-to-ones with the question of how can I help? What can I do to help you, and really listen to what they need. So I think that's again important in the virtual world because you don't get to meet up. So it's important to really listen. Another thing I do is I try to do walk and talks, which is a big thing in my company, and I encourage my team to do the same. So particularly those one-to-ones, you'll see me walking all around the village where I live with my headset on. And I think in this virtual, working from home world, that exercise is really amazing for igniting your brain cells, and it's also really important obviously for your physical and mental health. I'm also a very firm believer that it is important to have fun. So like many teams through COVID, we've tried various different things to have fun in this virtual world, like Zoom quizzes or cooking together and lots of different ideas. And finally, I think it's also important to celebrate diversity, because the more diverse the team is, the stronger the team is, in my opinion.
That's excellent, and it seems like you kind of bring a lot of balance into all areas there. It's brilliant. And I was also curious if you could walk us through a kind of standout moment or a professional accomplishment in your career to date.
Okay, well, I actually have two that spring to mind. One standout moment was when I was actually approached for the role that I'm in now, because the global marketing VP for the OEM division thought I would be a strong candidate for the role. I was actually working 3 days a week at the time because my children were young, and I hadn't thought at all to go for the role because I didn't feel confident enough. But it's actually turned out to be my favorite and possibly most successful role to date. So that was definitely really good. Another standout moment was actually much earlier in my career when I was working as a product manager for Fujifilm in Australia. I had to do a roadshow all around Australia launching their new digital photo kiosk. So I had to literally stand up on stages in all cities around Australia in front of sometimes hundreds of people, and I had to present. And at the end of the presentation, which went for about 30 minutes, people from the audience would ask me questions. They could literally ask me anything. So as you can imagine, that was very daunting, because I never knew what they were going to ask. But I tell you what, it certainly got rid of any fear of presenting, and I now love presenting, and I love presenting at events, in meetings, or anything like that. And I definitely did feel stronger and more confident, and after that whole roadshow experience.
Yeah, that's excellent. And thanks for two. There was a bonus one. Um, in terms of the main challenges that you think digital marketers have or will face, um, what are they? What are the main things you think digital marketers need to overcome?
Well, I would say probably the pace of change. Digital marketers need to constantly unlearn and relearn, and it's actually a skill to recognize that some skills become redundant and have to be relearned. For example, digital marketers need to understand the data science principles behind artificial intelligence in order to use AI tools effectively in their marketing mix. So gone are the days when marketing research took months to feed into a digital strategy. Now it's all about real-time data, and that's used to guide today's digital marketing communications. Another important skill, I believe, for digital marketers is the understanding of what content actually works for each customer and serving up wonderful personalized customer journeys which meet the customer needs on their terms.
That's that's really good advice. Which kind of leads me to think, what's the best advice you've been given in your career to date?
Well, I think it's actually a more personal type of advice. It was the advice I was given was don't be afraid to do what's right for you and your family, even if you think it could adversely affect your career. I was so happy that I took long maternity leaves for each of my children, and I actually chose to work part time, as I mentioned, 3 days a week when they were little. And this didn't actually adversely affect my career at all. I actually think the opposite happened because I was so grateful to have that precious time with my children when they were very young that I was super motivated to be the best I could be for my company, Dell.
Excellent. Yeah, that's brilliant. And finally, as we kind of wrap up here, could you tell me something like an interesting fact about yourself, or something that we might find interesting?
Um, well, I've worked and lived in 6 different countries around the world. And another fun fact, I suppose, is the fact that I've had over 20 pet cats since I was a child. But dogs are still my favorite pet.
Right. Excellent. Okay, that is very interesting. Well, thanks so much for your time today, and for giving us some insight into your career, and actually insights into your experience, and the kind of knowledge that you've developed over the last years. It's invaluable to have people like yourself on. So it's much appreciated.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, Olivia. Take care.